This is a Louie T Network exclusive.
Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Draft Zone.
Who else could it be? Me, your me, Louie T. Welcome, you are in the lab room, of course. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me on the 2016 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series where your man, Louie T, aims to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League's 2016 NFL Draft using our baseball grade scale, single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series. We cannot tell how these players are going to pan out, and I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League. So we'll get a score for each and every player selected in X said team's draft. Apply bonuses when necessary, add that total up, divide by the number of picks, which will then yield us a final overall grade for that team's draft. We'll then move on to the next team in this series picked by you. That's right, you, the viewer out there, is in total control, as this is the you pick format, as I like to call it, the up format. Simply be the first to leave a comment in the comment section of this video and future videos in this series stating two things: the phrase next and the team you'd like to see next. Really don't care how you phrase it, as long as those two components are in that comment and you are first, that team will be up next in the series. Sound simple enough? That's because it is, man, okay? And because you, the viewer out there, have spoken, the next team up in the series is none other than the Miami Dolphins. And a lot of change here. New head coach. Some feathers have been ruffled. A lot of players out. Some new players in. Should be a very interesting season for this Dolphins football team. A lot of people down on Ryan Tannehill right now. And I'm thinking to myself, I saw your head coach Adam Gase do some pretty special things with Jay Cutler over there. And if he can get Jay Cutler to look damn good, what's he going to do with a young, talented quarterback like Ryan Tannehill? We shall see. But nothing like going out and getting more weapons for an already talented offensive football team. Let's talk about this team and what they could potentially do after this 2016 NFL Draft of the Miami Dolphins. Now, first round, 13th overall selection, Ole Miss offensive tackle Laremy Tunsil is the selection, and one of the most controversial selections in this entire draft is this pick here. And it was a drama-filled first round, to say the least. A lot of things that we did not see coming. A lot of storylines brewing in that first round of the draft, especially this one here, and none bigger than this one here. And this was a big topic of discussion. We'll talk about that whole drama-filled situation a little bit later. Let's talk about why this guy was arguably the best tackle in this draft class, and why you got yourself a steal in the first round. 6'5", 310-pound tackle. This guy and this first pro is really what makes this pick such a steal for you. He's the left tackle prototype. That's the first pro with Laremy Tunsil. You weren't supposed to get your hands on this guy at 13 because he is the quintessential left tackle coming out of college, the guy that you plug and play day one, and you don't worry about him, and 13 years later you got yourself a Hall of Fame type of football player. That's what he looks like on tape. Now that's from afar. Now he's got the size, 6'5". He's got the length, 34-inch arms, so he's got vines. He's got athleticism to get to the second level. We'll talk about that here in a second. He's got some sweet feet, man. My goodness, those things are nimble. He's like a big ninja. And so this is a guy that just has everything you're looking for to stick at left tackle. Forget about right tackle. We do this all the time where we say, hey, well, first we might stick him at right tackle, give him a little bit of experience, and then move him over to left. No, day one, you stick this guy at left tackle and you let him go out and play ball. And so he's got the left tackle prototype written all over him. Sets up shop quick, fast, and in a hurry. That's the next pro. So out of his stance, I mean, he literally gets his shop set up. I mean, he puts it all together and he opens up the door and he's ready for business. Literally, they snap the football and this guy's out of his set and he's feet are moving, and he's ready to block. Speed, rush, power, really doesn't matter. He's ready for either one. So this guy gets out of his set, sets up shop quick, fast, and in a hurry, and he's ready to go. Much faster than slow. Powerful punch. This is a guy that I look at and I say to myself, he has a very devastating punch that he hits the opposition with, stops them dead in their tracks. It's a beautiful thing, and usually with the elite ones, they have one of those punches that they can just jab out there, boom, really quick, precise, sharp, right in the chest, right where it needs to be in the numbers, and it allows them to keep that defender at bay, and it allows them to buy some time, especially in those quick sets where you're looking to get the football out, three-step drop. You just want to hit them with a quick jab, boom, knock them off balance. They don't get a chance to get their hands up. They don't get a chance to impact the play. He does a really good job, not only in the pass game with that powerful punch, but he also does a good job with it in the run game. But I will talk about why that powerful punch is a good thing and a bad thing in the run game a little bit later on. But just know that there's a powerful punch that this man packs, and it is another reason why he's an elite tackle. Climbs to the second level with ease, and despite him not really running his 40 at his pro day, at the combine, it doesn't matter. Again, 40 times for offensive linemen, to me it's overrated, and I think that's part of the reason why he didn't even bother running it. No need to get injured or do anything out of the sort. Running a 40 just isn't necessary, but you see the athleticism. You saw it at his pro day, you saw it at the combine, and then you saw it on tape. I mean, this is a guy that can get to the second level with the best of them, and when he does get to the second level, he usually gets there with a purpose. He's looking to block somebody and create more movement in the run game. So this is a guy to get out there on some screens. I mean, I watched him in that LSU game. I thought he did a masterful job out there on some screens. Did some really good things. Just getting out there and being very fluid out in space is something that you love with your left tackle, being able to do some things with him, and he's one of those guys you can do that with. Great in space. I just talked about that, getting to the second level, getting out of space, impacting plays, get out there, get in the way, and pave the way for guys with the football, whether it's a wide receiver screen, whether it's a screen to the running back out of the backfield, whether it's the draw, or it's just a double team with the guard and the tackle, and then that guard or that tackle getting to the second level and needing to get to that linebacker or that safety or whomever, and he does a really good job of getting to the second level, and he does a good job out in space of putting a body on a defender, or at least contacting them. We'll talk about him putting a body on defenders a little bit later on. Outstanding recovery is the final pro. Here's a guy that, with those 34-inch arms that I talked about and referenced earlier, he's a guy that will get beat at times, not very often. The only time I really saw him struggle on tape was with the Texas A&M defensive end, Myles Garrett, and just about everybody struggles with Myles Garrett. This guy is a stud. But that was his first game back off of the 7-game suspension for the impermissible benefits. And so, yeah, he was a little rusty, and he had to knock off the rust, and that's a hell of a guy to go up against when you haven't played all season long. So that was a tough transition for him, but I thought he handled it well. Only one time I saw him beat by Myles Garrett, and he held him, picked up a holding penalty. There was another play where Myles Garrett bull rushed him, but there was a offensive lineman behind Laremy Tunsil, and I think their feet got locked up, and when Myles Garrett went and bull rushed him, and knocked Laremy Tunsil down to the ground. But in any event, I thought he held his own against the SEC's and pretty much college football's best at getting to the quarterback. Probably one of the most dominant players, and you'll find that out in the upcoming college football season, most likely. So I thought he did a really good job in that football game, held his own, and that lets me know that this is a guy that has outstanding recovery, because even when Miles Jack would get around him, he would still find a way to push him around the pocket and allow the quarterback to step up, Kelly to step up and deliver the football. So again, you're getting a guy here with just about every single trait you could ask for, especially as a pass protector. I think as a pass protector, he is as polished as they come, coming from the collegiate ranks to the NFL. Now, in the run game, I think there's some room for improvement, but if you're talking about a guy getting into his pass sets and doing a really good job of protecting the quarterback, I don't know if you're going to find anybody better in the business, in college football, coming to the pros in the last 5 to 7 years than Laremy Tunsil. You go to his cons, he doesn't engage and drive well enough for me, especially in the run game, especially at the second level. He's a guy that is more apt to punch you. He's a guy that's more apt to jab you than to actually lock on, engage, and then drive a guy one way or the other, turn him, and create an easy lane for the back or whomever has the football to cut off of his block. He's more likely to come out, give a punch, which will knock that defender off balance slightly, but again, that defender is now free to go make a play. So I would love to see him engage, lock on, and then turn and drive. Whatever way you decide to go, but just stay engaged with that player and don't allow him to be free and make a play. Injuries are a big topic of discussion with Laremy Tunsil. Here's a guy that had a knee injury in 2013 that saw him miss a couple of ball games. You got a partially torn bicep in 2014 that cost him a few games. And then you got the ankle dislocation and broken foot at the end of the 2014 season in the bowl game that lingered into 2015. Now again, he wasn't able to play at the beginning of 2015 because of the next con. Let's go to that. Off the field transgressions, which to me was the biggest problem for most teams that passed on Laremy Tunsil in the first round, and none bigger than the, of course, gas mask video that was released very timely right as the draft was about to get underway, which was insane. But the impermissible benefits, which isn't a really big deal to me. I'm one of those guys and I'm like, look, man, if it's not something that is huge off the field where we're talking about law enforcement potentially getting involved, or something that could get him suspended from the NFL, not college, I'm not really too worried about it. It happens all the time. It's just a matter of if the guys are getting caught or not. So that whole impermissible benefits thing, that rolls right down my back. But I do have a problem with him being in the room, and because of Robert and Kimdiche dry snitching during the combine, we know that Laremy Tunsil was in the room with him the night that he was on that synthetic weed, which he jumped out of the window with, which lets me know he probably was in there doing whatever they were doing. He probably was doing some of the same stuff, whether it was alcohol or the weed, or whether it was synthetic or organic or whatever. He probably was taking part in that as well. So there's just a lot here. And then of course the video saw around the world with him, in the gas mask and the bong and everything. So that is a lot to stomach if you're an NFL football team looking for a guy in the first round to come in and be an anchor at the left tackle position. But that all aside, if you can just put those things aside for a second and just look at the product on the field, man, this guy's as talented as it gets on the offensive line, especially at the tackle position. He may not be the safest pick like a Ryan Kelly, who I think was probably the safest offensive lineman you could have taken in the first round, and maybe even the safest pick in the first round in general. But to me, he's got the highest upside of anybody along the offensive line in this draft. That is for certain. This guy has the potential to be not only a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro, but this guy has the potential to be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. That's how high the ceiling is for Laremy Tunsil. The floor is that this guy's going to at least make a Pro Bowl at some point in his career. He's that good. So in my mind, the only thing that can derail him on his quest to be one of the best players at his position in the league is him staying out of trouble off the field, and that's drugs, weed and all of that stuff. If he can stay away from that, or his stepfather, whomever, if he can stay out of that drama and just focus on football, when he's on the field, there isn't anyone better at that position in this draft class than Laremy Tunsil in the first round, 13th overall selection. Ole Miss offensive tackle Laremy Tunsil is hit hard. He's hit deep. You can put him on the board. Yes! It's a home run for the Miami Dolphins in the first round with offensive tackle Laremy Tunsil. Of course you know it's a home run. You had no business getting your hands on this man at 13. And with all the struggles you've had at the left tackle position due to injuries, mainly Brendan Albert not being able to stay healthy, you may have just solved that problem in one fell swoop with Laremy Tunsil in the first round. Now the trick is just making sure you keep the man's head screwed on straight and keep him focused on what's going on in between the white lines. If you can do that, this man's gonna be a stud for you. for years to come at the left tackle position. You go to the second round, 38th overall selection, Baylor cornerback Xavien Howard is the selection. This is a guy that I've already broken down in the Draft Prospects 101 series, so not going to do that here. There's a lot of things that I like about Xavien Howard. I love that he's a press corner that wants to get in the face of defenders. I love the fact that he's a very, very aggressive guy. A lot of bravado there. Got to have that mindset as a corner. Even if I'm getting beat, which he got beat a lot at Baylor, even if you're getting beat, you have to have the mindset that is, I'm still better than you, and I'm going to prove it on this next snap, okay? You may have just got me for a 58-yard touchdown, but that was luck. Do it again. So he's got that mindset that I'm going to come back and I'm going to challenge you and I'm going to make you prove that that wasn't a fluke, that you can do it again. So I think he's got all the athleticism, all the length that you're looking for. So there's a lot here. It's all about getting this guy to have the proper technique, to put him in positions to make some plays, because when he is in positions to make plays, he makes plays. This is a guy that can go and make some plays on the football, has some ball skills. There's some good things about Xavien Howard. There's some things that he needs to clean up. I talked about it. I don't think he is a guy that really wants to tackle, but all in all, at the end of the day, the Dolphins went out and got Byron Maxwell. They now have Xavien Howard. They revamped the secondary a little bit. You know, Rashad Jones still looking for his money. Hopefully that situation doesn't get messy. But if they can get Rashad Jones back in the saddle, I think that secondary is really starting to come along. And I think this is a guy here in Xavien Howard that can really help this defense along and fast track them to being one of the better defenses in the AFC East, because this is a talented football player. It's up to the coaching staff to get this guy up to speed, coach him up correctly, and help him take those flaws out of his game and accentuate the strengths that this guy has, because again, he has raw talent. He just needs someone to coach him up and show him the finer points of the cornerback position at the next level. In the second round, 38th overall selection, Baylor cornerback Xavien Howard for me is a triple. I think the raw ability that this guy has, the measurables, the things you can't coach, the speed, the height, the length, ball skills, those are all things that come pre-packaged with Xavien Howard. Now you get him in a situation where there's a little bit of a pass rush in front of him, newly acquired a pass rusher in Mario Williams. You got Ndamukong Suh down there. Hopefully Cameron Wake comes back healthy. You get some rush and you put guys back there that can make plays on the football. We'll see if Xavien Howard is a guy that can take advantage of some opportunities potentially that may come his way in his rookie season. You go to the third round, 73rd overall selection, Alabama running back Kenyan Drake is the selection. He is a part of the Louie T 2016 All-Wish team. And I had an all-wish team of guys that I wanted my Redskins to select, and he was one of them. In my all-wish team, he would have been splitting carries with C.J. Prosise, the second round selection, I want to say second or third round selection of the Seattle Seahawks. So this is a guy that I was really high on. I love Kenyan Drake. There's some things that, again, you know, coming from Alabama, this guy was supposed to be a lot better than what he ended up being. There are some reasons why it never really manifested itself, but you've seen the talent. If you watch this guy, you've seen the talent. You know what he possesses. It's just about keeping him healthy, and we'll talk about all those things we get there. Let's talk about why this guy was on my wish list, though. 6'1", 210 pounds, that kind of height. Again, I've told you this a number of times. I love my upright runners. I love these backs that are 6 feet or taller that are out there running. As long as you know how to run behind your pads, give me an upright runner all day long. 6'1", 210, really good size at the running back position. Explosiveness, explosive. 4.45 40 for Kenyan Drake. This is a guy, you saw it in the national championship game, okay? The explosiveness is there. This is a guy against Michigan State in the playoff game. He gets the football, gets to the outside, doesn't look like much is there, turns it up, outruns the angle of the Michigan State defenders, gets up the field, cuts it back inside, jumps over a guy, and creates a huge play, and it's all explosiveness, okay? Getting to that edge, outrunning angles, which is the next pro. This is a guy that can outrun angles. You see it all the time. There's another play against Wisconsin. I think it was the first game of the season, as a matter of fact. Against Wisconsin, takes a handoff, doesn't look like much. He looks like he's bottled up. He's in a pile, and next thing you know, here comes Kenyan Drake back out of the pile. Somehow he escapes the tackle attempt of the defender, and he zooms up the field, outruns the angle of the safety into the end zone for his lone rushing touchdown of the season. It was a magnificent play, but it just shows you the explosion. It was like he was shot out of a cannon after being bottled up to come out of there and take literally 3 or 4 steps and back at top speed just like that. Phenomenal, and that's what this guy brings to the table. He's a receiving threat, and he's one of those guys, you get the football in his hands by any means necessary, whether it's a handoff, a draw, a screen, you split him out, you throw the football, and I actually saw them utilize him as a receiver, split him out wide, and throw him the football. So this is a guy that can hurt you out of the backfield in a number of different ways, which leads me to my next pro, all-purpose player. This is a guy that can hurt you in a number of ways, just like I mentioned. He can run the football, had 408 yards as a running back, can catch it out of the backfield, another 276 as a receiver. And then as a kickoff return, and I talked about this already in that national championship game, 95 yards just when Clemson seemed like they were gaining a little bit of momentum. They had just went down, scored a touchdown, they were back in the ball game. Kenyan Drake, to me, with the play of the game, 95-yard kickoff return for a touchdown that put this football game pretty much out of reach. 505 yards in that department this year for Alabama, for a total of 1,189 yards for a guy that, again, is a backup running back, doesn't see the field as much as their bell cow and Derrick Henry, and a guy that will get injured on you in a heartbeat and miss a couple of weeks. Guy still had over 1,000 all-purpose yards. So this is a guy that can impact the game from a number of different ways. All-purpose player. And finally, special teams value, and I just told you that this guy offers that. And not only is he a guy that can return kickoffs for you, but this is another one of the reasons why I think the Dolphins were so hasty in making this selection in the 3rd round. This is a guy that is tremendous on special teams as a gunner. I mean, with that speed, he is physical. He gets down there in a hurry. You kick the ball, and Mike Mayock said it best. You kick the ball, he goes and gets the guy that catches the football and gets him down on the ground. He actually fractured his forearm, making a tackle on special teams. So this is a guy that is physical, that will get down there and sell out on special teams. So above all else, day one, you're getting an excellent, not a good, not an okay, an excellent special teams football player. So you got to feel good and take comfort in knowing that regardless of whether he's not getting time as a running back or whatever may be the case, he's going to help you day one. If at all, nothing else, it'll be on special teams. So this guy definitely brings some special teams value. Cons, doesn't exhibit patience as a runner. Nothing drives me madder watching a guy on tape at the running back position than not having, that holy running back trinity that I talk about. Look, I don't care if you're not a 4-4 guy, okay? I see really good running backs all the time. In fact, this draft was littered with guys who weren't running 4-4 but were outstanding running backs. Kenneth Dixon comes to mind. So does the UCLA running back, Paul Perkins, Devontae Booker. Devontae comes to mind out of Utah. A bunch of guys not running 4-4, but extremely productive backs that I think you plug them in, they can help you right away. And I look at this guy and I just say, you don't have the patience necessary to be a dynamic back that can change the game consistently. Now look, you give this guy some space and some opportunity, and he can be a dynamic back. But the carry in, carry out production that you're looking for, with him, there's going to be a 1-yard gain, a 2-yard loss, a 1-yard gain, a 4-yard gain, a 2-yard loss, a 1-yard loss, because he's not patient. He's looking at, as soon as he gets the football, it's a frenetic pace. He's running like a chicken with his head cut off. He's looking for some space, and he wants it right now. He's not willing to wait for something to develop. I need space, and I need it now. Somebody create a hole for me, or I'm going to run up your back, okay? And so that's a problem, because as a running back, you gotta pick your spots. You gotta understand that these blockers need a little bit of time to help a hole be created, okay? And sometimes the running back can do them some justice by setting up some blocks. If you push a play out, you string it out, and you press a hole, all of a sudden now linebackers overcommit, defensive linemen overcommit. That sets up a lineman to have the angle to set up a block, and now you got a hole. That's not happening with Kenyan Drake. He's not going to allow that to happen. The minute he gets the football, he's looking for some space. And if he doesn't get it, he's going to run into some type of contact. So that's something that he definitely needs to work on. Calm down, young fella. Slow down. It seems like his mind is working much faster than his body. And you can tell because he is moving 1,000 miles per second. And a lot of times, it's going nowhere. You go to his next con. He will drop the football out of the backfield. For as good as he is as a pass catcher, especially once he gets the football in his hands, again, he's moving so fast. He's so hasty to do everything. He's so impatient that he wants the football now. Come on, football, get here fast enough that he'll drop the football. And it'll just be concentration. It just will be him trying to get the football, looking up the field, where can I go? As soon as I get this football, where can I go? And he'll drop the football. I say this all the time with receivers. This goes for backs as well. You can't run and gun. You can't have fun. You can't ball without the ball. So he's just got to catch the football. Simple as that, because I can see him impacting this Dolphins team right away in this screen game. I mean, this is a guy that I feel like you throw a screen to, you get Laremy Tunsil out in front of him, you get all of these guys that you have along the offensive line out in front of him, give him some space. This guy can make some big plays for you in the screen game day one. Injuries. This is probably the single biggest reason why he didn't have the impact that he should have had at Alabama, is because he was oft injured, whether it was his ankle or the broken leg he suffered in 2014 that cost him the final 7 games of that season, or might have been the final 9 games of that season if I'm not mistaken. So it's one or the other. Cost him that vast majority of the 2014 season. Then you turn around, I told you he fractured his arm making a special teams tackle in 2015. That cost him a couple of games there. So this is a guy that is in and out of the lineup constantly yo-yoing back and forth. If he could just stay healthy, all the athleticism, all the physical gifts are present. You just need to keep this guy on the field, and if you do that, you're going to get yourself a hell of a football player. In the 3rd round, 73rd overall selection. Alabama running back Kenyan Drake for me is a triple. I love this guy. I love his game. Some parts of his game need to be improved. I'd love to see him just be a little bit more patient. If he could exhibit a little bit of patience, the difference that would make with him, astronomical. Love his game though. Love what he's going to bring to the table. I think the Dolphins got a really good football player here in the 3rd round. Next 3rd round pick, 86th overall, Rutgers wide receiver Leonte Carroo is the selection. Dolphins traded up to get him, so they really saw some things here, and they were fixated on getting their hands on Leonte Carroo. This is a guy that I actually discovered last year watching several different players, and I thought last year's version of Leonte Carroo was better than this year's version, and I think it has something to do with the quarterback. He was playing with a guy that he had developed a number of years worth of chemistry with in Gary Nova. And I think you saw the chemistry out on the field. I thought he was way more effective last year. Caught a bunch more balls last year and for more yards last year. But the average was actually higher this year with Chris Lovasier. So it doesn't matter at the end of the day. This is a guy that is highly productive. 6'1", 211 pounds, so that's really good size for the wide receiver position. Outstanding hands. You're not going to see Leonte Carroo drop the football very often. Last year, that was one of the things that caught my attention. This guy was going up, making plays. Mike Mayock says he plays angry, and you see that. He's a guy that attacks the football. I saw that more so last year than I did this year, but again, outstanding hands. He'll go over the middle of the field. He'll go in traffic. He'll catch the football. Sort of like a Jarvis Landry will do the dirty work underneath. Will do all of the dirty things you'll want him to at the wide receiver position. So you're getting another guy. I think he's much faster than Landry, though. A little bit bigger. Of course, Landry is sub 6 feet, so this is a guy a little bit bigger, wider body. I think he can do some more things for you in the passing game that Landry may not be able to do. Run solid routes. Another one of these guys who runs really crisp routes is going to win with his route running ability. They did a lot of play action fake at Rutgers, which allowed him to get deep. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but he runs some really good routes. A lot of these routes look the same, and I remember once upon a time when I was a young wide receiver trying to come up in the game, that I remember Jimmy Smith saying that the biggest thing for a wide receiver is you want to make all your routes look the same. And I feel like with Leonte Carroo, especially the underneath routes, they all look the same. So it's kind of hard to know, is he about to run this dig route? Is he about to run this slant? Is he about to run this comeback? Is he about to run a stop? Is it a stop and go? Is it a slant and go? It's hard to really know. And so before you know it, he's running by you and the quarterback's laying the football out there and he's going to go track it down. So I think he runs really solid routes. Catching traffic, I already alluded to that. This is a guy that will go over the middle, take a shot, hang on to the football. And I love it because at Rutgers, and this is another pro, he was the go-to guy. I mean, the opposition knew Leonte Carroo was getting a football. We probably need to stop number 4. Let's not let him beat us because he's the only guy on this team that can beat us. And yet he was going out and he was single-handedly doing teams. I watched him against Michigan State in a game that they almost stole at home. And this guy had like 3 or 4 touchdowns in that game. I mean, he single-handedly almost put a wrench in the national title hopes of the Michigan State Spartans on a Saturday night. I mean, he literally went to work on them in that football game. 3 or 4 scores. I mean, he absolutely destroyed them. And that's what he can do. And they knew he was getting a football. That was the crazy part about it. He's a yakster. He's another one of these guys, catch the football, run after the catch. And so he's, again, he's tough with the football. He'll run through arm tackles. You got to bring your hard hat and your lunch pail if you're going to get this guy down on the ground. You come with a half-hearted, lazy arm tackle attempt, he's going to run right through that and pick up extra yards after the catch. Plays with physicality, and I've already mentioned that, so I don't really need to continue to harp on that. This is the guy that is a physical football player. Even when he blocks, he's physical. So you're getting a football player that is well-rounded and plays the game the way that I feel like it should be played, with a level of physicality that's going to help him win on most snaps. And finally, big play ability. That's what you get with Leonte Carroo. That's his final pro. This man averaged 17 yards, 19 yards, and 20 yards per catch, respectively, the last 3 years at Rutgers. So this is a guy making big plays. And again, this isn't 40 catches for 672 yards. This is a guy that's catching the ball 50 and 60 times a season. So high volume and number of catches, a bunch of yards, big plays, and also getting touchdowns. You go to his cons. Lacks true vertical speed. I don't think he's going to be racking up the big yards per catch numbers that he did at Rutgers. I talked about them running a lot of play action at Rutgers, which allowed him to beat guys deep. There were a lot of underneath passes that were blocked up well. He got a head start, took off running, they couldn't get him from behind. So you got some of that as well. But a lot of his yards that bolstered his average were off of the play action fake deep shots that he was winning on. So this is a guy that I think doesn't have the type of speed that's going to just scare defenders and back them off. And don't know if he's necessarily taking the top off the defense at the next level. You drafted a guy that may potentially be able to do that for you later on in this draft, but I don't know necessarily if Leonte Carroo is that guy or not. But like I said, he does everything else really well, so I'm willing to ignore that if that is, in fact, is the case at the next level and he's not able to take the top off the defense. Off the field transgressions, that may have scared some teams away, because I actually thought Leonte Carroo was going to come off the board in the second round, and I think the off the field transgressions were something that teams dug into a little bit, and they weren't comfortable with spending a second round pick on him potentially because of it. Because if you look at the production on the field and you look at all the things that this guy brings to the table, I didn't think that this was a third round wide receiver. I thought it was a second round. So again, I felt like the Dolphins got great value here in the third round. Pretty much the reason why they went up and traded some picks away to get this guy, because they saw the value in Leonte Carroo in the third round as well. But the off the field transgressions, had a simple assault that he had that was it's a situation that you can get caught up in, and he ended up being suspended for 2 games there. Again, you hate anything that is tied up in the law and litigation and all that stuff. You don't want that if you're a football team, and I think, again, that's something that may have scared some teams away. Was suspended 2 games for that. Also missed curfew for a game, the first game of the season, as a matter of fact. Was suspended for the first half of the first game of the season. So again, that's minor, but again, it's another transgression that you just don't want to see out of a guy. And so those are things that can be cleaned up, however. And I like Leonte Carroo a lot. I told you I kind of fell in love with this game last year watching tape on him. So I think this is a guy that can come in and help you right away. The one thing I will say about this Dolphins football team, they're not lacking in threats to do things with the football. It's time for Ryan Tannehill to step up. That's what I'm going to say, because now you have another weapon in Leonte Carroo. I'm going to talk about another guy that could potentially be a weapon for you. And with your next selection, there's no more excuses in Miami for Ryan Tannehill. He needs to get the job done. In the third round, 86th overall selection, Rutgers wide receiver Leonte Carroo for me is a triple. This is a guy that can come in, and I think right away, it wouldn't surprise me if he's getting in the slot. A guy that can win right away, you can have something in Miami. And I love the tight end position and what you're doing. And another guy that you drafted in this draft that I think can come in and help you as a skill guy at the tight end position. So I just feel like this team is starting to become very lock, stock, and ready to go at the skill positions. And this is a guy in Leonte Carroo that I think is going to help you in that regard. You go to the 6th round, 186th overall selection, Texas Tech wide receiver Jakeem Grant is the pick, 5'6", 165 pounds, so this is a small, diminutive guy. But with that size, you better be a hell of a blazer, and he is. Dynamic playmaker with explosive speed, okay? It's bubbling, and if he gets an opportunity, it's gonna explode. 4.38 40 for Jakeem Grant. This is a guy that can pick him up and put him down. You see it on tape. I think it was a lot of fun watching him make plays, run by guys, and do some explosive things in a number of games. Watched him against LSU, watched him against Baylor, watched him against TCU, watched him against Oklahoma State. I mean, like I said, when you have guys that are this dynamic, it's easy to just pop something in and watch it, and that's what I was doing with him. All-purpose threat. If Kenyan Drake is an all-purpose player, Jakeem Grant is an all-purpose threat. There's a difference. All-purpose player, he's nice. He can do some things. An all-purpose threat is scary, okay? The level goes up of awareness from orange to red, I guess. I don't know what the colors are, but let's call this a cold red. Red is pretty bad. I know that. Black is the worst. I was told that by a guy in the military. My man Sarge told me black is the worst. So red, I think, is right before black. This is a cold red here. When you get an all-purpose threat like this, Kenyan Drake's probably somewhere in the orange, the yellow vicinity. This is cold red here. 90 catches for 1,268 yards and 10 scores as a wide receiver. 8 rushes for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns as a running back. 39 kickoff returns for 1,017 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then, to make matters worse, this guy actually threw 1 pass for 72 yards and a touchdown. So we're talking about 4 different ways this guy is impacting the game, all of which resulted in touchdowns in some form of capacity. So this is a guy that had his hand in at least 15 touchdowns this season, and in 4 different ways. So again, this guy is an all-purpose threat of some of the highest variety. So this is a guy that can impact your team in a number of ways. I'm anxious to see if he'll get that opportunity or not with this Miami Dolphins football team. But he can also, and this is the next pro, I said all of that to say this, at 5'6", a lot of people question him as a receiver, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I think he can impact the game as a wide receiver, and he showed that at Texas Tech. Now that's a wide open offense, okay? Wide open offense, and I ran into Jakeem Grant. It was funny, and I'll tell you a quick story and then we'll move on. That everybody was asking me to do, I had never heard of Jakeem Grant. And everybody was asking me during my draft prospects 101. I had at least 3 different people. Hey, dude, Jakeem Grant. I'm like, who the hell is Jakeem Grant? And in my studies, in my travels, I stumbled over him on accident. And you know how it can happen indirectly. You're watching tape on somebody else, and it happened to be one of his teammates, Raven Clark, for the Indianapolis Colts. And then I ended up doing the Oakland Raiders, and I ran over him with the running back DeAndre Washington, both of his teammates. And so by virtue of doing those guys, I stumbled into Jakeem Grant, and I'm like, wow, this guy's making some plays. So this is a guy that I feel like can impact the game as a wide receiver in that wide open Texas Tech offense. This is a guy that was a huge part of their game plan each and every week. In the last 3 years, listen to these numbers that he has compiled at the receiver position over the last 3 seasons. 222 catches for 3,002 yards. Let me repeat that. 222 catches for over 3,000 yards, 3,002 to be exact, and 24 touchdowns. As a receiver, the guy can impact the game, I think, as a receiver if given the opportunity. And of course, special teams value, again, as a kick returner, this is a guy that can come in and flip the field position right away. Had some big returns at Texas Tech. The ones that didn't even go for touchdowns were big returns. They gave his team great field position. And then he had 2 more that went to the house. So this is a guy that can impact special teams right away. And I think that's going to be the way that he cracks this Dolphins roster. If he makes this football team, going to be as a kickoff returner, because I think Jarvis Landry has cemented himself as the punt returner on this football team until otherwise notified. He did a magnificent job last year of making some plays in the punt return game, and he is very dynamic in that setting. So I think he's going to be your punt returner and continue to be. But Jakeem Grant, I think, has an opportunity to come in and win the job as a kickoff returner. And I think because he wins that job, he'll get an opportunity. Slowly but surely, he'll get an opportunity to hit the field as a receiver. And when he does, I think he's going to have an impact that's going to allow him to have more opportunities in that setting as well. You go to his cons. First thing that flies off the screen at you is size. Guy's 5'6", 165. There's no way you're getting around that, okay? That's running back stature, okay? And really diminutive running. I mean, that's Darren Sproles-esque, right? There are not a lot of guys walking around in the NFL that are sub 5'7", and he's going to be one of them. So this is a guy that you wonder about. Running routes, that's another con. How well does he run routes? I mean, at 5'6", I'm not really sure. I know he got open a ton, but again, in that Texas Tech offense, wasn't hard to get open. Just about every other play, 5 guys were out on the route. So they were spreading the football all around. So I just don't really know how well he runs routes. At 5'6", you're not winning any jump balls, so you got to run precise routes to create separation. He's got the quickness, he's got the speed to create separation. Can he run good routes? We'll see. But his size, something that you can't ignore. It's not ideal, that's for sure. And finally, concentration lapses. I watched him against LSU, and the first 3 passes he would throw in that game, he dropped all 3 of them. I go to the TCU game, the first 3rd down of the game, he dropped the football. Okay, easy catch right in his hands, gonna move the sticks. Again, TCU, number 2 team in the country. You can't afford to have these mistakes. That ended up being a shootout, the likes of like 58 to like 57 or something crazy like that, or 58 to 61 or some craziness like that. You can't drop the football on 3rd down. What if you would have ended up scoring a touchdown on that first possession, and that would have been the difference in the game between you winning and losing? Catch the football. So every now and again with Jakeem Grant, and again, he's not a big guy, so you don't want him going over the middle taking shots. And I think sometimes when there are defenders around him, because of his size, he's got his eyes wandering, and that's when he'll drop the football. And so he has concentration lapses. He can't have those if he's looking for some opportunities to get on the field as an offensive threat. And the numbers say that he catches the football more times than not. Just need to see him make sure he catches the football, because I want to see him get some opportunities offensively, because I think he can impact the game in other ways besides special teams. In the 6th round, 186th overall pick, Texas Tech wide receiver Jakeem Grant for me is a double. And the only reason he's a double and not a triple is because I don't know if he's going to get an opportunity or not to play at receiver and impact this team in numerous ways. Right now, I think his sole purpose for being selected is as a kick returner. He's going to have to earn reps as a receiver, and if he makes good on those reps, he may get more opportunities pushed his way. We'll see. In the 6th round again, 204th overall selection, Penn State defensive back Jordan Lucas is the selection. 6'1", 201 pounds, really good athlete, 4'4", 5'40", 38-inch vertical, so you know there's some explosion there, a guy that can move very well. Aware of zone coverage, very aware of zone coverage. Was impressed with him, with his eyes on quarterback, key in quarterback's eyes. I thought he did a really good job of scanning where the quarterback wanted to go with the football. Had a chance to make a play, and I want to say it was against Michigan State. Ball hit him right in his hands. He went up, climbed the ladder, talked about that 38-inch vertical, used it to go up and get a chance to pick off Connor Cook, let the ball go right through his hands. So that was very disappointing, but he was aware, he saw where the ball was going and made a play on it. So it's a guy that I feel like he's very aware of zone coverage. He tackles very well. They love to play him up around the line of scrimmage. Even when he was at corner, they played him up around the line of scrimmage. When he was at safety, they love to bring him up and blitz him, which is my next pro. Great in blitzing situations. This is a guy, times up blitzes well, disguises them well. Looks like he's gonna be off out here in zone coverage, and next thing you know, he's taking off and he's splitting the B gap and he's coming after the quarterback aggressively. So I think he was really good. Had about 7 or 8 career sacks over his career at Penn State. So again, another one of these guys does a really good job. 4 or 5, something like that. Coming from the safety, cornerback position, that's a really good number for a guy. And I think he does a really good job blitzing. Outstanding versatility. That's why he's selected here in the 6th round. His versatility gives the Dolphins some flexibility and gives him a chance to potentially make this football team, not just as a guy that can give you some value on special teams, but a guy that can be interchangeable as a corner, potentially a safety. And I think where they like him the most right now is probably going to be dropping over that slot. I think he plays a lot of good nickel for you potentially, and he did at Penn State play some good nickel. I think you can bring him in and it can give you some value as a nickel corner or a nickel safety that can come in the game and do a number of things. I told you he tackles very well too, so there's a number of things you can do with Jordan Lucas. Special teams value, anytime you get a guy that tackles well with the kind of speed and measurables that he has, you stick him on all your special teams and ask this guy to go out and make some plays for you, and I think you can do that. His cons: missed 4 games in 2015, the final 3 of which were at the end of the season due to injury. So this is a guy that you got to try to keep healthy. Needs to have more of an impact on the game is my final con, and the one that really drove me nuts with him. Talked about him dropping the pick against Michigan State. He doesn't stand out at any one position to me. He's not a guy that jumps off the screen at you. With those measurables and that size, 6 feet, 201, running as fast as he does with the explosiveness that he has, he should be more adept at making plays. He should be around the football more. He should be impacting the game from the defensive side of the football more than he does, and he just doesn't. And because of that, I think that's why he's here in the 6th round. I mean, there wasn't enough on tape to prove that this is a guy that is nothing more than a backup. And until he does, look, the talent and the measurables and the raw ability says that this guy can start for you, but the production says he's a backup. So there's a discrepancy there that he needs to fix. Again, maybe some coaching comes into play. Maybe he's put in some better situations to succeed. But he's got to go out and make some plays, and I didn't think he did that enough for me at Penn State in the 6th round, 204th overall selection. Penn State defensive back Jordan Lucas is a double. Solid guy. I love his measurables. I love his raw ability. Now it's all about, again, I talk about this with guys like this. Coaching is the key. How can you get the most out of Jordan Lucas, put him in the best positions to succeed if he, in fact, makes this roster? You go to the 7th round. Dolphins had 2 7th round selections, the first of which was Western Kentucky quarterback Brandon Doughty, the 223rd pick in the draft. 6'3", 213 pounds. Very high quarterback acumen. And what this man did his last 2 years at Western Kentucky is outlawed in several states. This guy reads the field well, he digests coverage very well, and he sorts through progressions for a guy that played in a spread offense. It's rare to see these guys because normally the reads are easy, they cut the field in half, guys are running wide open because of all the action that's going on and the ghost action and motion and the fake handoffs and the read option and all the things that come with a spread. There's so many moving parts that defenses react to that the linebackers are coming up and pinching towards the line of scrimmage and got wide open, tight ends running up the seam, and your first option is usually wide open, and there's not a lot of reading the field, there's not a lot of sorting through progressions, you're not having to digest what the defense is trying to do to you. But he did that at Western Kentucky did a hell of a job. I mean, you would see this guy literally going through his progression. First guy's not open, second guy's not open. Oh, third guy's open on the backside, hit him. You know, first guy's not open, second guy's not open, third guy, check down, boom, hit him. Okay, he was a guy that you could see processing information and making smart decisions with the football. So his football IQ, his QB acumen, to me, off the charts, highly accurate. And that's another reason, that's a byproduct of being a smart football player. When you're a guy that is intelligent at the quarterback position, you're not going to make a lot of mistakes. So you're not going to throw a lot of picks, which he didn't, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But you're also going to find the guy that's open, the guy that should get the football on this particular play because of the coverage the defense is playing. They're telling you where the football should go, and if you follow what the defense is telling you you should do with the football, it's going to lead you to a completion, and it's going to keep the sticks moving. And that's how this guy was able to complete 71.9% of his passes. And this wasn't a dink and dunk offense. It's not like this guy was checked down Charlie at Western Kentucky. This guy was throwing the football all around the field. And when you see the yards that he compiled, you know that he was out there putting in some work. So this is a guy that when he has time, let me reiterate that, when he has time, he is highly accurate. 71.9% tells you that from his 2015 campaign. Shows pocket mobility. Now, he's not the best at moving in the pocket, but I do think he slides to create more time in the pocket. But he's a guy that will panic under pressure. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but he does show pocket mobility. He does slide to create more time. He will step up, and he's looking to throw. He's not looking to run. When he creates time in the pocket, he's looking for guys down the field. He's not looking to create to run. So I think that's something else he does show. Ridiculous back-to-back seasons at Western Kentucky, though, is the final pro and the biggest one. Probably the reason he gets drafted here, in addition to his high football acumen. 9,885 yards in the last two. That's a career for most guys in college football, okay? He did that in 2 years. 9,000, listen to what I'm saying to you. Almost 10,000 yards passing in 2 seasons, all right? 97 touchdowns versus 19 INT. Let me say that again. 97, almost 100. Okay, almost a C note. Touchdown passes. 97 versus almost 20 picks, 19. You're talking about a 5-to-1 touchdown to INT ratio. Insane. Putting in work over the last 2 years. So this is a guy highly productive at Western Kentucky. Measurable, you go to his cons. His measurables and arm talent. 6'3" is really good size. But 6'3", 213, not really good size, okay? That's a pretty thin quarterback. I mean, we were really going after Teddy Bridgewater for being 6'2", 212 maybe? We were talking about the same thing with Jared Goff this past draft. He was like 6'4", 214 pounds or something like that. This guy's 6'3", 213, so yeah, kind of rail thin frame a little bit. So he's not the most imposing figure at the quarterback position. And then he doesn't have great arm talent. I think it's adequate. I'm not going to beat him up for it. I think he can get the football anywhere it needs to go on the field. No, his arm isn't Joe Flacco. Hell, it's not Carson Wentz's arm from this draft. It's not Paxton Lynch's arm. But everybody's not going to be blessed with that kind of ability. I think his arm is adequate enough to get the football wherever it needs to go. I've got more pressing issues with this guy. Con number 2, he's frenetic under duress. That's the one that stood out for me. And anytime you get a guy putting up the type of numbers that he put up, you say, okay, who's your competition? And there was a game standing right there staring me in the face like, click on me, watch me. And it was LSU, and I'm like, oh my God, can't get much better than this. I'm about to find out if this guy's legit or what. And I'm gonna tell you this much, in his defense, nasty day, okay? Nasty day at LSU. Wet, sloppy field, whole 9 yards, okay? Raining most of the day. It's a nasty day. That being said, okay, he was erratic. Ball was everywhere. But I don't know, if he threw the ball 40 times in that game, 22 of them were off target, where receivers were reaching behind him, reaching up. I mean, there were some really good catches by his receivers, bailing him out. Balls tipping off of guys because he's behind them. He was off, okay? And a lot of it had to do with him having happy feet because LSU was putting pressure on him and he did not handle it well. So he is frenetic. He's frenetic under duress. This guy was all over the place. He looked like a scared puppy back there, and he played like it. That was disappointing because for all of the big games that he's had throughout his career, they were in that ball game too. And if he'd have played better, they may have had a chance. But I thought he played poorly, and they ended up getting blown out in that game. And I didn't think that he handled that moment well. And had he played better in that game, this guy might have been selected in the 5th round. I mean, one game, because you don't play, if you're at Western Kentucky, you don't play LSU that often. You don't play that caliber of opponent all the time. So when you get an opportunity to shine against one of the best, you need to go out and do it. And if he would have did that, you might be talking about a 5th round quarterback here because of the production that he has and the football acumen that he possesses. But he went out and he struggled in that game. I think it hurt his draft stock as well. Senior, and his final con, injuries. This is a guy, 6th year senior at Western Kentucky. Yes, this man was in college for 6 years. So don't even ask me how old this man is. Really, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day, especially when you're talking about quarterback position. But yeah, 2011, 2012, both marred by injuries. So much so that the NCAA said, hey man, don't even worry about those years. We're gonna let you do those years over. Don't worry about it. So he's had some injuries that impacted him to the point where the NCAA gave him more years of eligibility, which ended up seeing this guy stay at Western Kentucky for 6 whole years. So with that being said, in the 7th round, 223rd pick overall, Western Kentucky quarterback Brandon Doughty for me is a double. Again, I love smart quarterbacks. I love accurate quarterbacks. I love guys that can distribute the football to playmakers and let them make plays for them. I think he throws a nice deep ball with some touch. Sometimes underneath, I think he puts a little bit too much sauce on the football. But that being said, this is a guy that I really like, and I think he does some good things on tape. I'm a little nervous about when he's being pressured because at the next level, you're going to get pressured. How do you handle that pressure? He played against LSU, didn't handle that pressure very well. You go to your final pick in this draft, 7th round, 231st overall selection. UCLA tight end Thomas Duarte is the selection, 6'2", 231 pounds, good athleticism, 4'7", 40 guy, smooth and slick route runner. They compare him to Jordan Reed. You know, I'm not buying because Jordan Reed to me is one of the most adept route runners in the entire National Football League. That goes for receivers or tight ends. He stays breaking somebody off. I don't know if Thomas Duarte is that. We'll see. Time will tell. But I do know that this guy's really good at running routes. He's slick. It doesn't look like he's moving very fast, but he gets to the stem of that route and he breaks a dude off. The next thing you know, he's getting a football from Rosen on a touchdown delivery. And he had 10 touchdowns this year, so this is a guy that gets open, finds a way to get the football, get in the end zone. He's a guy that will catch the football in traffic, and saw Rosen drill it in there to him a couple of times and him come down with the football. So it's always good when the quarterback trusts you, will force it in there to you, and you reward him by coming down with the football, even when it's in a situation where he maybe shouldn't have thrown it into traffic where defenders are around and you're going to take a shot. And he was able to come down with the football. He's not afraid. I can assure you of that. He's a U-type tight end. And in this league, where, and what a U-type is the Y is the inline tight end, tight to the line, traditional tight end. A U is a guy that's detached from the line, and some teams have different terminology for that tight end. I just go with U. Since we're at the end of the alphabet with everything else, why not use the U? It makes sense. He's attached from, and usually in the slot, lined up. And I didn't see this guy line up tight to the line at all at UCLA. And part of the reason why is because he's an ex-wide receiver convert. So it's a guy that came out of high school, highly recruited wide receiver, comes to UCLA, plays receiver for a couple years, and they realize you better serve as a tight end for us, move him to tight end. And that's where he basically made his bones at UCLA, detached from the line as a tight end, and won some one-on-one matchups for them, and probably was their best performer in the slot at UCLA while he was there. Solid collegiate production. I thought he was solid each of the 3 years he was at UCLA. Thought he put up some really solid numbers. especially his last year, which was his best year, which is that upward trajectory that I like. Guy playing his best football coming out of his final year in college. In 2015, 53 catches for 872 yards and 10 scores. So that's putting in work, folks. And with a true freshman quarterback putting up those kind of numbers, that speaks volumes as to how well Thomas Duarte was playing for the Dolphins. Go to his cons. He's a tweener. And at 231 pounds, they're not going to ask him to block in Miami most likely. He's probably going to be a guy that they're just looking to throw the football to. And I think he's a guy that's going to be able to win a lot of. And this league is all about matchups now. Forget about if this guy can block or not. If you feel like you can turn him into an adequate blocker, then you'll do that with him. But at the end of the day, you drafted this guy to come in and win one-on-one matchups, and I think Thomas Duarte can do that. And this is a league where you look across the field at the New England Patriots, and they're winning one-on-one matchups with their tight ends, and you're saying to yourself, why can't we do that? Here's a guy that may be able to help you do that, but in the meantime, at 231 pounds at 6'2", he's not the biggest guy, which puts him in that middle ground between wide receiver and tight end, hence the label tweener, which is probably why the reason he didn't get drafted until the 7th round. He's a pretty boy blocker, man. What I mean by that is he don't want to block. And if he doesn't have to, he won't. There's a touchdown that Paul Perkins scores in a game, I want to say it was against Cal. And catches a screen pass. Thomas Duarte has a chance to block a guy initially. Nah, I'm good. Passes up on that opportunity. Didn't realize that Paul Perkins had made a guy miss and was going down the sideline. And then he looks and says, oh, you broke a tackle. Maybe I should go block somebody. Has a second opportunity to block a guy. Not really for that, man. That physical stuff, I'm good. I'll pass. Then Paul Perkins continues on the play, and Thomas Duarte says, I'll make sure I get in somebody's way. How about I do that for you? And so he runs all the way down towards the goal line and gets in the guy's way at the very end to make sure that Paul Perkins gets into the end zone. If he had it his way, he wouldn't have touched a soul on that play. And that's Thomas Duarte in a nutshell. Watching him on some run plays, he wanted no part of the run game whatsoever. So that's part of the reason why I reiterate, this is not a guy that you're going to line up and have him block anybody. This is a guy that you're looking to win one-on-one matchups from a pass catching standpoint. And finally, concentration lapses, they don't happen very often, but when they do, they're big boo-boos. That same Cal game, down the sideline, beautifully thrown football. Yeah, had to extend away from his frame a bit, but it's a ball that I know he can catch in his sleep. Goes right through his hands. Had a huge drop versus Stanford over the middle of the field. Might have even went for a touchdown. That's a ball game that they lose going away, but at the time it was a close ball game. Gotta have that one. So again, every now and again, concentration lapse. But this is a guy that catches the football very well in the 7th round. 31st overall selection. UCLA tight end Thomas Duarte is a double. This guy is a walking mismatch, and that's what this league is all about. Let's see if he's able to help make this roster by winning some of those matchups and then having an impact on his offense after getting the opportunity to make this football team. We'll see. So that's the Dolphins 2016 NFL Draft. Let's go over their scoring quickly. First round, Laremy Tunsil. You know that's a home run. Second round, Baylor cornerback Xavien Howard, triple. So is 3rd round running back out of Alabama, Kenyan Drake. So is Leonte Carroo, a wide receiver out of Rutgers in the 3rd round. Texas Tech wide receiver Jakeem Grant is a double. So is Penn State defensive back Jordan Lucas. So is the 2 7th rounders, Brandon Doughty, quarterback out of Western Michigan, and UCLA tight end Thomas Duarte to round out your draft. So we go to the scoreboard, and the Dolphins put up some points here. A home run, so 4, 3 triples, which nets you 1 triples bonus, and 4 doubles, which nets you 2 doubles bonuses. You total all of that up, it's a 28 divided by the number of picks, which is 8. You get a 3.5 triple, a hearty triple for the Miami Dolphins in the 2016 NFL Draft. One of the better scores in the 2016 NFL Draft wrap-up series. So Dolphins doing some work, a lot of it on the offensive side of the football. Let's see if, again, offensive-minded head coach, offensive-minded draft. Let's see if it all comes together and culminates in an offensive explosion for the Dolphins in 2016. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, here in the lab room, come back and join me as I continue to break down and that's the National football. Lead, bar, stop. Can't wait. There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at In the Lab Room, or you can like the Facebook page at In the Lab Room. That's In the Lab Room on Facebook and at In the Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.